Hello everyone. For this lesson, I'll show you how to solve multi-step inequalities and graph them on the number line here. Alright, so let's take a look at this example here. We have 2 less than negative 5n plus 3n. Okay, so on the left hand side, on the right hand side, we have the negative 5n plus 3n. So let's combine those negative 5n and 3n. If you do that, you're going to get a negative 2n. Okay? And the left hand side stays as 2, and then you have the inequality. And now the only step that we have to do now is divide both sides by the negative 2. Okay, so let's do that real quick. So let's divide this by a negative 2. And divide this by a negative 2. Okay, notice when you're dividing by a negative, you have to switch the inequality, so we're gonna have to do that, right? So this changes to a greater than sign or symbol, right? And on the right hand side, you have the negative 2 and negative 2, they'll go to 1, and you just have the n, right? And then on the left hand side, you have 2 over negative 2, which is negative 1. Okay? So we have negative 1 greater than n, right? But I like to write out the n on the left hand side first, so let me just switch that around. Right? So n, right? N is less than negative 1. Okay, so we have to graph n is less than negative 1 on the number line. Alright, we'll start off with 0. Right, 0 is going to be over here. And we just go here, that'll be negative 1. This will be negative 2. Negative 3. We don't need too many. I think that's enough. And we go ahead and graph it, right? So let's pick this color here. Alright, so it's going to be an open circle at negative 1, and it's going to go to the left. Okay? Right? So n is less than negative 1. It's represented by this arrow here. Okay? And we're done. Let's take a look at another problem. Let's say we have negative k plus 3k minus k greater or equal to 10. Okay? So on the left hand side, we have all these k's here, right? So we want to combine them, right? So we have a negative k here plus the 3k minus the k. So now we have 1k, right? Or just k, right? And then on the right hand side, we have the 10. Okay? So now this comes out to just, let's do this in black here. K is greater or equal to 10. Right? So we have gonna have to graph this on the number line. Right? So let me indicate what 0 is, so that's 0. I can go up by 5, so this is 5. 10, 15, I think that's good enough. And then we can go ahead and graph this, right? So it's going to be a solid circle, or shaded in circle, filled in circle, right? What have you. And then it's going to be shaded. And it's going in this direction, right? Because k is greater than 10 or equal to. It's going to be pointing in the right direction. Okay, and we're done here. Alright, let's take a look at this one here. We have negative 2 minus 5 in parentheses 4x minus 3 close parentheses greater than negative 27. Right? So we have a lot going on, but that's okay. right, the first thing we want to do is distribute this negative 5 into the 4x. So when we multiply these two, we're going to get negative 20x. Okay, let's do the same thing. Let's do the negative 5 times the negative 3. We're going to get positive 15. Right? And everything else stays the same. So let's bring that one down. And let's bring this one here. Alright, so now we have the negative 2, right? This negative 2 and this positive 15 that we want to combine. So when we combine it, we're going to get positive 13, right? So we're cool with that. And let's bring down this negative 20x, right? And greater than negative 27. Let's bring that one down. So all we have to do now is let's bring this 13 to the other side. So I'm going to minus 13 here and minus 13 here. Right, so let me draw this little line so you can see it a little bit better. So now we're left with, so this positive 13 and negative 13, they go away. Right, so we're left with the negative 20x. So let's bring that one down. Right, we have the greater than symbol, right? And then negative 27 and negative 13, that comes out to negative 40, right? Which is nice, right? And you'll see why in a second. Because all we have to do now is divide both sides by negative 20. Right? Negative 20 here. Right? So guess what? Right? X is greater than a nice 2. Right? So we have x is greater than 2. Oh, there's one thing though. I don't know if you guys caught it. When we divide by a negative, what do we have to do with this inequality? So we actually have to change that to a less than, right? And the reason was we divided by a negative number, negative 20 here, right? So that's very important. So let me write that up here so we have room to plot our, use the number line. So x is less than 2, right? That's our answer. So let's put that right there. So we have it. So we go ahead and erase and make some room back down here. You can actually erase this too. Alright, so let's quickly plot this. X is less than 2. Start off with 0. Here's my 0, right? Little funky 0. And go up to 1. Go to 2, 3, I think that's enough. And I go ahead and it's going to be an open circle, right? At 2, nice open circle, right? And it's less than 2, so it's going in the left direction. Oh. Right, and there it is. Nice looking arrow here, right? And that is x less than 2. Right? And we're pretty happy with this. Let's take a look at this one here. Let's say we have 2x minus 3 in parentheses minus 2x is greater than negative 4x plus 2. Right, so we have a lot of x's here on both sides. Alright, so let's first distribute this 2 into the x and the negative 3, right? So x, 2 and x gives you the 2x, and the 2 and the negative 3 gives us the negative 6, and this stays the same. Bring the right hand side down. Right, so now if we look at the left hand side, we have a 2x and a negative 2x. Guess what? You can cross those out. They're on the same side, right? So they're gone. Now we're just left with the negative 6. Okay, so let's rewrite this. So we have a negative 6 here on the left hand side, greater than, and we have a negative 4x plus 2. Alright, so let's bring this positive 2 to the left hand side. So we're going to subtract 2 here and subtract 2 here. Right, so let's draw a little line. So now we have negative 8 on the left, and that's a greater than, and we have negative 4x because this positive 2 and negative 2, they're gone. They go to 0. So we're down to the very last step here, right? So let's divide this side by a negative 4 and divide this side by a negative 4. And when we divide by a negative, guess what? Look what happened to this inequality. We have to switch it right away, right? So now it's less than, right? Less than. Okay? So on the right, we have negative 4 over negative 4, that's just 1x, so 1x, right? And negative 8 divided by negative 4, that's just 2, right? So we have 2 less than x, but I like to write the x on the left hand side, so let's make some space. I think we have a little bit of space over here, right? So we have 2 less than x, but I want to write it in terms of the x being on the left hand side, right? So x is greater than 2, right? So that's the thing I want to graph, x greater than 2. Okay, so let's erase and make some room here, and let's pick a color. I think we're good with this one. So let's start off with the number line. So that's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. I think that's good. Let's pick a nice color. So x is greater than 2. Let's make an open circle at 2, right? It's open because we just have a greater than, right? And it's greater than 2, so it's going to go in the right direction. I'll go to the right. And there's the arrow pointing to the right. Right? So x is greater than 2 is represented by that arrow. Okay? So we're done. Alright, I think we're ready to take a look at this inequality here. Let's say we have negative 2 in parentheses 6 plus 3n close parentheses is less than 6 1 minus 4n. Right? So what I want to do here is distribute this negative 2 into the 6. Right? So let's do that. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. Right? And I'm going to do the same thing with the 3n. So distribute that negative 2 with the 3n. So that's going to give us negative 6n. Okay, and this stays the same. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. 6 times the 1 will give me a positive 6. And then 6 times the negative 4n will give me a negative 24n. Right? So we want to combine the n. So let's bring plus 24n here. Bring the n to the left hand side. So I'm going to plus 24n on this side also. Right? So after we do that, we're going to end up with a negative 12 here, right? And then this one will be plus 18n, right? And then we have a less than, and we have just the 6 on the right hand side, right? This is a couple of steps left. So what I want to do next is I'm going to add 12 to both sides, right? Because I want to get rid of that negative 12 there. So when I do that, I'm going to be left with just the 18n, right? Because the negative 12 and the positive 12, they went away. Right? Should cross these out too. And then we have less than, and then we have 6 plus 12, which is 18. Alright, we're down to one last step, right? We just need to divide both sides by 18. Right? So we're not dividing by a negative, so we're going to leave the inequality the way it is. So after we do this, this 18 and this 18, they cross out, and this 18 just goes to 1. Right? So now we're down to just n less than 1. Alright, so let me put that up here, n less than 1. Alright, so that's our inequality that we want to graph on our number line. Alright, so let me erase this so we have some room to work with here. So let's mark off where 0 is. 0, and we'll go to 1, 2, maybe 3, that's good enough. And then we want to mark off, it's going to be an open circle, right? So at 1 open circle, It's my nice circle here. And then it's less than 1, so it's going to go in the left direction. Right, it's going to go in that direction. Right? And we're done. And we're pretty happy.